Bullies ripped new girl's shirt off in front of everyone. Her revenge destroyed their lives. A story by Heartfelt Tales. Chen had survived 3 different high schools in 4 years, but nothing had prepared her for what was about to happen at Lincoln High. As she walked into the bustling cafeteria on her 3rd day, clutching her lunch tray with trembling hands, she had no idea that in the next 60 seconds, her life would change forever. The sound of her shirt tearing echoed through the suddenly silent cafeteria, followed by the cruel laughter of her tormentors and the flash of phone cameras. But what those bullies didn't know was that Maya had learned something powerful from her years of being pushed around. Sometimes the prey becomes the predator, and justice has a way of finding its mark. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more inspiring stories that matter. Maya's father had been transferred again, this time to a small town in Ohio where everyone seemed to know everyone else's business. She was tired of being the outsider, tired of starting over, tired of the whispers that followed her wherever she went. At 17, she had perfected the art of invisibility, but somehow, trouble always found her anyway. Lincoln High was supposed to be different. It was smaller, more intimate, and Maya had hoped that maybe, just maybe, she could blend in long enough to graduate without incident. She had chosen a simple outfit that morning, jeans and a button-down shirt that her mother had carefully ironed the night before. "You'll do great today, sweetheart," her mother had said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Maya had smiled and nodded, but deep down, she knew better than to hope. The cafeteria was a maze of cliques and unspoken rules. Maya had learned to navigate these social minefields over the years, always choosing the table in the corner, always keeping her head down, always avoiding eye contact. But as she made her way across the room, she felt the familiar sensation of being watched. It was a feeling she knew all too well. Jessica Morrison sat at the center table like a queen holding court. She was everything Maya wasn't: popular, confident, and cruel in the way that only teenage girls could be. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, and her smile sharp as a blade. She had ruled Lincoln High since freshman year, and she wasn't about to let some quiet new girl disrupt her kingdom. Well, Jessica's voice carried across the cafeteria as Maya tried to find an empty seat. "Look what the cat dragged in. Did you get lost on your way to the thrift store?" Maya's cheeks burned, but she kept walking. She had heard it all before, comments about her clothes, her hair, her accent, her very existence. The key was to ignore it, to not give them the reaction they craved. But Jessica wasn't finished. "Hey, I'm talking to you, China girl," Jessica called out, using the racial slur that Maya had heard in every school she'd attended. "Don't you have any manners?" Maya stopped walking. She turned slowly, her dark eyes meeting Jessica's blue ones across the crowded room. "My name is Maya," she said quietly, her voice barely audible above the chatter. "And I'm Korean American." Jessica's laugh was like breaking glass. "Oh, she speaks. How exotic. Tell me, Maya, do you know Kung Fu too?" The laughter that followed was cruel and sharp, but Maya had heard worse. She turned back around and continued toward an empty table, her hands shaking slightly as she set down her tray. She just needed to make it through lunch, then through the rest of the day, then through the rest of the year. She could do this. But Jessica wasn't done with her new toy. Maya had barely taken her first bite when she felt a presence behind her. She turned to find Jessica and her 3 closest friends, Brittany, Madison, and Chloe, standing like a wall of perfectly coordinated cruelty. Their phones were out, cameras ready, and Maya's stomach dropped. "So, Maya," Jessica purred, "I was thinking maybe you could show us some of those martial arts moves we've heard so much about. You know, since you're probably an expert in all." "I don't know martial arts," Maya replied, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "And I just want to eat my lunch in peace." "Peace?" Jessica's eyebrows rose mockingly. "Oh, honey, you came to the wrong place for peace. This is my cafeteria, my school, my town. And I think you need to learn some respect." What happened next would be seared into Maya's memory forever. Jessica reached down and grabbed the front of Maya's shirt, pulling her up from her seat. The fabric was old, worn from too many washings, and it gave way easily under the sudden pressure. The sound of tearing cotton was followed by shocked gasps from the surrounding students as Maya's shirt split open, exposing her to the entire cafeteria. Time seemed to slow as Maya stood there, vulnerable and humiliated, while dozens of phones captured her moment of ultimate shame. She could hear Jessica's triumphant laughter, could see the satisfied smirks on her friends' faces, could feel the eyes of every student in the room burning into her skin. But in that moment of absolute degradation, something shifted inside Maya. Years of being pushed around, of being made to feel small and worthless, of being told she didn't belong, it all crystallized into something hard and unforgiving. She wasn't going to run this time. She wasn't going to hide. She was going to fight back. Maya pulled her torn shirt closed and walked out of the cafeteria with her head held high, ignoring the whispers and the continued sound of camera clicks. She didn't cry until she reached the bathroom, and even then, she allowed herself only 5 minutes of tears before she began to plan. The first thing Maya did was call her mother. Through choking sobs, she explained what had happened, and her mother's response was immediate and fierce. "We're going to the school right now," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "This is assault, Maya. This is not okay." But Maya had a different idea. "Mom, I need you to trust me. I have a plan, but I need time to make it work." That night, Maya sat in her room with her laptop, her mind racing. She had learned something over the years of being bullied: information was power, and social media was a weapon that could cut both ways. She created anonymous accounts across multiple platforms and began to research her tormentors. What she found was a goldmine of incriminating evidence. Jessica Morrison wasn't just a bully, she was a scholarship recipient, bound for an elite university in the fall. Her Instagram was full of photos of her volunteer work, her academic achievements, her carefully curated image as the perfect student. The same was true for her friends. They all had full-ride scholarships, all had college acceptance letters, all had reputations to protect. But Maya also found something else. Hidden in the depths of their social media histories were posts that revealed their true characters. Racist comments, cruel jokes about other students, evidence of underage drinking, and worse, much worse. They had been so confident in their power, so sure of their invincibility, that they had documented their cruelty for the world to see. Maya spent the next week carefully crafting her response. She reached out to every student who had been in the cafeteria that day, asking for their footage of the incident. To her surprise, many of them complied. Some sent the videos out of guilt, others out of their own anger at Jessica's reign of terror. Maya compiled it all into a comprehensive file that told the complete story of what had happened. But she didn't stop there. She researched the scholarship requirements for each of the girls, contacted their future universities, and prepared a detailed report that included not only the cafeteria incident but also the years of documented bullying behavior that painted a picture of systematic cruelty. The turning point came when Maya discovered that Jessica's scholarship was specifically for students who demonstrated exceptional character and leadership. The irony was almost too perfect to believe. Maya's plan was elegant in its simplicity. She would give Jessica and her friends exactly what they had given her: public humiliation. But unlike their random act of cruelty, Maya's revenge would be calculated, justified, and permanent. On a Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week after the cafeteria incident, Maya struck. She released the compiled footage across multiple platforms simultaneously, along with a carefully worded statement that detailed not just what had happened to her, but the pattern of behavior that had led to that moment. She tagged the girls' future universities, their scholarship foundations, and local news outlets. The response was immediate and devastating. The video went viral within hours, racking up millions of views and thousands of comments from people around the world who were outraged by what they saw. The footage was clear, undeniable, and damning. There was no way to spin it, no way to minimize it, no way to escape it. By Monday morning, Jessica Morrison's full-ride scholarship to Yale had been revoked. Brittany lost her acceptance to Northwestern. Madison's scholarship to Duke was withdrawn. Chloe's admission to Stanford was rescinded. The local news had picked up the story, and suddenly the girls who had once ruled Lincoln High were facing a very different future. Maya watched it all unfold from her corner table in the cafeteria, the same spot where she had been humiliated just days before. But now the whispers were different. Now the looks were different. Now she wasn't the victim, she was the girl who had fought back and won. Jessica approached her table on Tuesday, her perfect composure finally cracked. Her eyes were red from crying, her hands shaking as she clutched a crumpled piece of paper. "You ruined my life," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I was supposed to go to Yale. I was supposed to be somebody." Maya looked up at her former tormentor, feeling no satisfaction in her victory, only a deep weariness. "You ruined your own life," she said quietly. "I just showed people who you really were." "But I'm not that person," Jessica protested, tears streaming down her face. "That's not who I am." "Yes, it is," Maya replied, her voice gentle but firm. "That's exactly who you are. The question is, who are you going to choose to be now?" The aftermath was swift and merciless. The video had sparked conversations about bullying, about racism, about the culture of cruelty that existed in high schools across America. Maya found herself at the center of a media storm, with interview requests and speaking opportunities flooding in. But Maya's real victory came in the smaller moments. It came when other students began sitting with her at lunch, when teachers started paying attention to bullying in their classrooms, when the school implemented new policies to protect students from harassment. It came when she received messages from kids around the world who had been inspired by her story to stand up for themselves. Maya's mother worried about the attention, about the potential backlash, about whether her daughter was okay. But Maya had never been more certain of anything in her life. She had found her voice, and she was going to use it. The scholarships were gone, the college dreams shattered, the perfect futures destroyed. But Maya had learned something important through it all. Sometimes the most powerful weapon against cruelty is simply the truth. She had given Jessica and her friends exactly what they deserved, not through violence or hatred, but through accountability. As graduation approached, Maya stood as valedictorian, her acceptance letter to MIT tucked safely in her pocket. Her speech was about resilience, about finding strength in the darkest moments, about the power of standing up for what's right even when it's hard. Jessica Morrison sat in the back row, her future uncertain, her dreams deferred. She had learned the hardest lesson of all, that actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences last a lifetime. Maya's story became a cautionary tale, a reminder that in the age of social media, nothing stays hidden forever. But more than that, it became a story of hope for every kid who had ever felt powerless, every student who had ever been pushed around, every person who had ever been made to feel less than. The bullies had thought they were untouchable, protected by their popularity and their privilege. They had thought they could humiliate a quiet new girl without consequence. They had thought wrong. Maya Chen had shown them that sometimes the prey becomes the predator, and justice has a way of finding its mark. She had turned their moment of cruelty into her moment of power, and in doing so, she had changed not just her own life, but the lives of countless others who would never again feel alone in their fight against injustice. The footage that was meant to destroy her had become the weapon that saved her. The humiliation that was meant to break her had become the catalyst that made her stronger. And the bullies who thought they held all the power had learned the most important lesson of all, that true strength comes not from tearing others down, but from lifting them up. Maya's story reminds us that we all have the power to stand up against injustice, to speak truth to power, and to create change in our own lives and in the lives of others. Sometimes the smallest voice can create the loudest echo, and sometimes the quiet girl in the corner has the power to change the world. If Maya's story inspired you to stand up for what's right, please show your support by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs to hear this message, commenting below with your own thoughts about bullying and justice, and subscribing to Heartfelt Tales for more stories that celebrate the power of resilience and the triumph of truth over cruelty. Together, we can create a world where no one has to face their bullies alone.